All right, so this is dried up good. So that's good to go. So now I need to glue the front. Now I got to determine how I'm going to do this. How I'm going to do this. Get a nice, yeah, that's what I'm going to do there. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to start squeezing that up to where it's kind of close. Then I'll put some cement like that. Squeeze it tight. Let that one cure up. Let's see what we got on this side. Same thing. Yep. So if you ever run across these clamps, they're really handy. X-Acto makes them. These are the ones that I've had these forever. My dad gave me these like back in the 80s. They're made by X-Acto, but the brand you see a lot of times now, like especially in the bigger like Hobby Lobby stuff like that, I think it's XL or something like that. Same, pretty much the same thing. They're knockoffs. These are made in the USA, but they're pretty much the same thing as these, just not as refined in the molding, but they work just as good. And I really recommend those. So we'll let that dry for a minute, and while that's drying, let's go ahead and cut off the flaps and ailerons. So we need D3, D4, D46, and 47. So let me start cutting that stuff off and get it ready. Okay, so now we can glue these parts on, and you need to make sure you have them going the right direction. And it looks like they're only going to fit one direction anyway. Now there's a little bit of flash on here, so don't know if yours will be the same if you're building it, but watch for it. Cement probably would have dissolved it, but no sense in taking any chances, I always say. It's not a real super tight fit, so you'll want to make sure it's kind of positioned correctly before you smash it all down in place. Okay, and then just push it into place really good. Like that. And then we'll do this one, same way. Check that one for flash. Nope. See, I don't know if you can see this, but there's a bevel on this side here. And this side is sloped, so it's only going to go one direction. Just like that. Okay, so those are ready. Now those are not going to be attached either, for the same reason that I'm not attaching the slats or the ailerons or anything else, because those are going to be painted separately because of having to paint some interior detail where they go. Now I'm going to double check, but I think that's the plan I'm going to go with. But we shall see for sure. All right, let's take a look at what we got here, see how it looks. All right, so we're good to go there. So next I need to glue parts D43 and 42. Those what I believe are radiator covers. So cut those off. Now the ailerons, I was looking at the ailerons, and I may be attaching those first before I start doing the painting, because the way they're positioned, you're not going to see any of the detail on the trailing edge of the wing, which is what I'm going to be watching for with the flaps, because I want to make sure that okay, those fit there. Okay, so I am going to probably be painting these real soon before I put these covers on, because I want to make sure that they're painted up properly. It'll be a lot easier to do it before I put these covers on, and then whenever I actually paint the rest of it, I'll be blocking off the inside of this, the inside of these, so as not to get paint in there while I'm painting the exterior. So I think first what I'll do, I need to take a look and see what color that's supposed to be. Let's see, those are supposed to be brass. Wow, that's different. Brass. So yeah, it must be some kind of radiators. Yeah, and then the that's weird. So that's supposed to be brass, and then the inside of there is supposed to be RLM2. So let me, and then the inside of these are also supposed to be RLM2. So let me get all this stuff prepped so we can get that painted. All right, let me talk about what I'm going to do here as far as this paint. So there's a couple of things I need to do. So the inside surfaces, from what I can gather, of like the slats here, this section here on the flaps. Now, this may be totally wrong, but this is some of the references that I looked at and read about and questions I asked on a previous project. This is what I was basically told about. So these inside surfaces here, these surfaces here, and then according to the instructions, these portions inside of here, not this part, but on the wing itself, and then the inside of these covers that go over these radiators or whatever they are, should be RLM2. So the problem I'll run into later on is if I paint this RLM2 and I put these in position to paint my camouflage pattern, it's not going to line up correctly. I could mask this off and put this in place, but the camouflage pattern won't match, because if I have the camouflage pattern is on here from when it got painted, okay, I would assume that they'd be closed when they painted it. If it's open, if I were to paint it like that, well, if it was open and I painted it, and say we had an angle here, then if these were closed, where that angle meets would be offset a little bit. I hope that makes sense. So let me see if I can illustrate this. All right, here's my illustration. So hopefully this will make sense. All right, so this line here, let's say that is the line. Let's say that gap simulates this gap, okay? This gap here simulates this gap. I lay a piece of tape to make my hard edge camouflage, or even if it's soft edge camouflage, okay? I'm making it with the gap in place. So in real life, if you were to do that, and then when the slats were closed, they wouldn't line up. Your camouflage pattern would not line up, okay? Whereas if the slat was closed, which I would think this is the way they would paint it, and I could be wrong, but this is just the way I would think it would happen. Okay, they would paint that hard edge or even soft edge camouflage with the slats closed, where this was pressed all the way up against to the stop there, where it stops. Okay, so when the slat was extended, it wouldn't line up. Okay, I hope that makes sense. But that's the dilemma, and that's the way I think it would be. So that's why I'm going to do what I'm going to do, and that is this. I am going to, since these slats are real basic, and all I have to do is make sure there's a gap of about that much right there. What I'm going to do is I think I'm going to cut these little tabs off, except for the little part that you can see underneath, to where these will slide all the way closed. Okay, so that way I can put this in place, you know, just tack it in place with something and paint it in situ with the rest of the wing parts. That way the camouflage lines up, and it'll also help block off this part here, which I'm getting ready to paint with the RLM2. So that way when I extend this out, these will be in correct relation to each other as far as the camouflage pattern goes, and you will be able to see the RLM2 in there just fine. Okay, hope that makes sense, but that's the plan. Okay, with those little tabs cut off, they line up perfectly, and when I glue them in place, all I have to do is just make sure I have them lined up properly with that much space. Boom, we're good. And the little detail that's underneath that I guess is supposed to be the slat extender is still there. All right, so hopefully that all makes sense, and that will just be jolly. Okay, so let me get all this stuff prepped here. With this other slat, this is what I did. I basically just cut it off to about right there, and then cut it there, and then use the tip of my knife blade to make sure that's smoothed out so it doesn't hang up and create a ridge or anything, and I'm ready to go. All right, so we got the paint in the paint cup. My magical mix of RLM2. Get me a handy dandy glove so I don't get any paint on my fingers, because that's nasty and it drives me crazy. And then we'll get the HPM2 and whoops. There's that. Flaps don't, or ailerons don't get paint. This gets paint. Along the front edge. Like that. I don't know how many people out there, how many of you out there watch my channel all the time, but this is a good example of the difference between armor kits and aircraft kits, because there's a lot of back and forth between painting and building with an aircraft kit, way more so than with an armor kit, unless you're doing something with an interior, whereupon it's pretty much just building, and then when you're done with that, you paint. Totally different animals. That's why I like switching off. It makes it switches things up a little bit. And I like aircraft. Okay, got that now. So while I'm at it, I think I will paint the inside of the gear bays. Normally, I like to get all my parts prepped for painting the same color, such as the RLM2. There's more parts other than what I'm doing right now that have to be painted that, but I'm not doing it that way just because, you know, I'm trying to do it step by step, and I don't want to get too far ahead on some of the parts that have to be painted. Okay, so we got that. Man, that looks good. I like that color. Okay, and I think I will go ahead and hit the back. Oh, I need to get in here. Okay, and then I'm going to hit this back here like that, and then I'm getting these the sills here, because believe it or not, I have actually forgotten to paint those before, if you can believe that. All right, good deal. Clean my airbrush. We'll move on. All right, so this is all done. I forgot when I was painting to do that part, so I did it off camera. And it calls for brass to do these front and back of these radiators or whatever, but I deviated from the instructions and decided to go black because that looked kind of funky to me, and you know, I'm just a rebel at heart. So anyway, I'm gonna glue these things on here. Just like usual. You know what? Hold on a second. Break that thing off. You got some little bit of weirdness going on over here. Can't tell if that's just shine from molding or if it's flash, so I'm not gonna take a chance. Yeah, it's just shine from shiny plastic. So we'll put that back down in there. Reapply the cement. There we go. Put some cement in here. I just got that in the wrong spot. That little puddle of cement when it evaporates, it should be pretty much gone. If not, I will be sad, but I'll make it. There and there. So that looks pretty good. Now, one thing I'm going to do, I got some weird little bubbles going on here from doing that twice. So I'm going to fix that with my knife so it'll be down in, yeah, see? Now it won't show up when I do the paint and everything. There we go. Okay. So those are in place. Then the only other thing I need to do is put the ailerons in place. What I'm going to do, you might not be able to see it, but there's little tabs in there. That's where I'm putting the cement, because I don't want the cement to just flow through the whole seam, because I want it to be a nice nice defined joint there. Do the same on this side. That and make sure they are level. Oftentimes I've seen kits where the ailerons are kind of wonky, and it's probably okay because I think they're not perfect anyway on the real deal, but I'm kind of like that. Okay, so that takes care of the wing steps. The wings are done, and the wings are installed. So the next thing I need to do is install this thing somewhere. What is that? E6 and E5. Let's see if I can figure out what that is. Okay, in looking at some more of this stuff here, I've discovered something. The illustration for the I'm not actually up to this part yet. I'm just doing some pre-test fitting, and it's a good thing I did because got some crazy stuff going on here. So according to the illustration for that you're supposed to sand off the front and that kind of business for having the cowling off, it shows, and let me find it, it shows sanding a little bit right there. Well, you have to sand a lot right there, and you have to cut these things off right here on both sides, because as I was test fitting, it was rocking back and forth. Now on see on the instructions here, I shouldn't have glued that part on either, this part here, so I'm going to cut it off because I've already had to cut a bunch of it off. I should not have glued that on for the covered version. So the instructions are kind of wonky in that respect, so I don't know, it's kind of a bummer, but a little bit of patience and not getting ahead of yourself, you can figure these things out, and it's no big deal. So here's what I'm going to do. Patink, cut that stupid thing off. Now, oh, look, it fits like a champ. Now what got all this started is this here. So we have these things here, and it says they go, we have these things here. It says they go up here and then vanish. Where do they go? Where do they go? So I don't know. I don't know where they go. It just doesn't make sense. And it shows them laying flat. So let me get one of them, which is, I don't know, E6 or E5. I don't know which one that means. So I'm going to think that's E5. Might be, might not. I don't know, we'll see. So I'm going to cut that off, E5. And I'm going to cut those little pieces off there. I seem to remember, and it's real vague because it's been a while, but I seem to remember dealing with kind of the same situation with these parts right here on that E4 build that I did a few years back. But I can't remember. So it shows it going here, but it doesn't say where it goes. So I'm assuming that it is supposed to block this off here. Like that. So I need to sand a little bit there. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to look ahead here, see if there's a better illustration of what it looks like. And I'm not seeing it. Let me look for a second. Looking at the color chart, yep, that's exactly what that is. That's what it looks like. But it's super vague on where you're supposed to put it. So I would trust to test fitting and stuff like that before you commit. And it is slightly curved. You can't really tell probably on camera, So you want to make sure you get it going in the right direction so you don't have too much of a seam. So let's see here. All right, that's what it looks like. So that is not too bad. Okay, so that's what it looks like. So you don't want to get too much glue on. Boy, just that side right there is just not cooperating. You really don't want to get too much glue on there because it's supposed to. There's supposed to be a seam line there. Boy, for such a simple part, this thing is really giving me fits. Let me monkey around with this for a minute. All right, after much faffing about, as they say, I got that part in there. So I'm gonna let it dry. I'm sorry I didn't do it on camera, but man, that thing for such a simple piece was just really giving me some grief. So I'll cut the other one out, get it shaped up or find it or whatever I did with it, and get that there it is, get that part glued on, and then we'll come back and see where we are. This is the point of the build where I start getting all over the place because of painting and because of, you know, changing the steps because of trying to, you know, paint and do all this other stuff. Okay, I got the nose cowl, the engine cowl, whatever you want to call it, hashed out. That's ready to go now. So we're good there. So we got the wings done. We got the parts glued on the bottom. Got the wings done, the parts glued on the bottom, covers glued on the radiators, if that's what they are. Got the painting done, needs to be painted. So we got these on to the cowling. So now we need to start working on the tail. So I'm going to cut those parts off. I need to cut off the horizontal stabilizers and the rudder. So let's cut them off. Okay, before I get too far, I sanded these front edges of the wings here, and I really won't be able to tell till I get some primer on here if I've got the seams taken care of. They look pretty good, but I won't know for sure. So now I'm going to use this right here to rescribe the panel lines, and it's pretty easy how I'm doing it. I basically find the panel line in question, this one right here for instance. I'm just resting it right there and then just pulling it down across. And these don't take much. These are very shallow panel lines, so these aren't taking much work. So you don't want to get too crazy and go too deep with them. Like that. So that is what I'm doing there. So I'm going to do these, just double check them. And that's my thinnest one. I have some others here. I haven't tried those yet, but yeah, this one here works pretty good. So I think I'm good there. Got a little bit right here to sand where those slats are. Do that right now. All right. So now I've got these cleaned up. Got these cleaned up so I can get those glued into place. So I'm going to do this first. And that fits in there really snug. You know what though, first thing I got to do is clean this off where cement seeped out. From gluing it together. So we're good there. You know what, I think what I'm going to do, I'm just going to lightly knock off the where the cement oozed out. Of the seam here. Keeping in mind I don't want to get too crazy with this seam up here. I don't want to make it disappear. It may disappear. I mean, well, no, it's not too bad. May not be able to see it once I get paint on it, though. But that's okay. Need to get that cleaned up. We'll have to get those seam lines rescribed. Panel lines, I should say, not seam lines. Seam lines is what I'm trying to take care of here. Okay, that looks pretty good. The bottom of it is already taken care of. I think we're good there. There's some rivet detail in there I want to be careful with as well. So I think we're good there. Let me check something here. Just want to, those aren't really sanded away, they're just kind of dirty, so. Like that. I can take a brush, get that cleaned out. Now I'll clean all this off really good before I get into painting and stuff. But we're looking pretty good here. All right, I think we're good. So let's go ahead and glue this on now. It's already been cleaned up, it's ready to go. Okay, and what I'm going to do on this one here, I think, is I just really don't want to get a bunch of paint into the so I'm going to put a little bit of this here, so whenever I punch these in, it'll basically just push the cement in. Don't have to worry about it filling up the the seam there. So then we've got this here. Whoa. Man, that's not even fitting in there. Yeah, I'm gonna have to do a little bit of work, make these. Yeah, these seem to be a little thick, or those holes are too small or something. So here's what I'm gonna do with that. Sometimes these holes are like at an angle, so like the surface, instead of being flat, it's kind of in like that. So we'll just trim that off just a little bit. Not too much, because we don't want it to be sloppy. Like that. Yeah, almost there. Just this side right here needs a little bit. See by the amount of plastic that's coming out of there that I'm not taking much out. Man, that is really tight. Let me mess around with this for a minute. All right, now I got it. So this one fits in here like that. This one fits in there. Wow, it fit in there a second ago. Now it's gonna give me grief. There we go, like that and that. So what I need to do is I need to glue those, but at the same time put the supports on the back. So let me find the supports. So 13 and 14. So I'll cut those off. Put them on the side that they go. Like that. Get those cleaned up real quick. Okay, so as you can see, I've got this side on. And I'm going to show you how this works. So this goes in here like this. Theoretically, and boy, it's giving me fit skin. That is like super tight. One thing I find that helps on these things sometimes, especially if they don't fit real snug and flush, is scrape this mold seam line off in here. Being careful not to scrape these outer edges. That way it gets in there a little bit more flush. Just make sure the extra debris is out of there. Yes, I said debris. Okay. And then test fit it again. Much better. So now this is the way that I glue these in. Okay. I keep that tab in place. Then I take my cement and try and carefully dab it in there and then push it into place. All right, so then you need to put this support strut in. And there are two sides one side fits on this part better and one side fits on this part better. So you just need to kind of look at it and see which one fits where. Now, I believe when looking at it at this angle, this one here is slanted a little bit more than this one, I believe. Let's take a look. Yeah, there it is. So that, now I'm going to try and do this on camera, and I'm probably not going to have much luck because I had a terrible time getting this thing into position here because of the shape of it and everything else. I find this to be very frustrating, and trying to do it with tweezers is really tough. Part of the problem is it's aerodynamically shaped, which is something, another way you can tell. It's thicker in the front, thinner in the back, just like a wing. Okay, so what I did last time, and again, you know, this isn't the best way to use this glue, but I just put a little dab on there, just enough that I can get it in place here like that. Let it set up just for a second. Then I need to bend that over. There's a little pin that fits in a little indentation. There we go. So it takes a little bit of dexterous gymnastics here. Just make sure it's pressed into place. Make sure that your horizontal stabilizer is still in position. And you get yourself a nice little joint, and by doing it that way, you should be lined up properly like this. Okay, so that is that. All right, so that needs to set up. So that finishes this step here. That's page 7. Page 8, we move on to the landing gear. So, because all this is taking so bleeding long, I'm going to call this video quits right here. So next time we come back, be doing the landing gear, getting it ready. We'll not install it yet, but we'll be doing the landing gear. Also, these small parts here, the counterweights for the ailerons, those will not be installed either, because every time I've done them, they have been knocked asunder. So that's that. So thanks for joining me here on Plastic Models by a Regular Dude with the Eduard 148 scale BF 109 E3 Weekend Edition. As always, if you have any questions, comments, hints, tips, etc., please put them in the comments section down below, and I will get back to you as soon as humanly possible. So until next time, thanks for watching, and I will see you all later.